We have been running an office in Oslo since 1995. We're, by Norwegian standards, a medium-sized office. We're 17 people in the office. We used to primarily do public buildings. We've always done smaller commissions that are quite common in the Nordic countries, like one-family houses and cabins. These days we've moved sort of more towards doing work for private developers, like housing and hotels and so on. To us, it's our life in many ways. It's what we're spending most of the day doing or making, which means that we're in the essence trying to make the world a better place. We're trying to provide for comfort for people. We live in a quite hostile climate, which means that it's not like sitting outside here in Venice. There's a lot of rain, there's cold temperatures and so on.
It's a small country, but it's even fewer people there. I would say that it's giving climatic space in nature, really. I think it's a changing question, and I think also for the Biennale it shows that you have, I mean, architecture is your tool, but your role is to be a human being, because that's, I mean, that's the way you know the task at the best way, I think.
For every new task we should find a new solution, not repeating ourselves. For the first years in our practice, we sort of in a joke said that, okay, new project, we have to find a new material. Sort of in the sense that a new project is a new opportunity, which means that we can learn something more. We can find a new material, we can explore the possibilities of that material, find sort of, hopefully, we've always used the word of sort of trying to provide for some sort of shocking self-evidence when we're working with materials. That we really want to research into the possibilities of each task, each specific task, each specific structure, each specific construction, each specific material, in the way that should be self-evident, but it should be surprising at the same time. It would be a lie to say that we have collaborators all over the world, all over the different kinds of fields and so on. We're in that way what you could describe as an old-fashioned practice. It doesn't mean that we have our eyes closed. I mean, as architects, we are always part of much larger teams. Everything from acoustical engineers to ventilation, mechanical engineers and sociologists and psychologists and real estate agents and everybody, that we're trying to sort of negotiate in a way to arrive at some sort of solution, some sort of reasonable, or not reasonable but reasoned solution. But yes, that's sort of the luxury of being an architect, that we are actually the ones that are putting all this knowledge together, presenting it as one thing. Of course, we know through now more than 20 years of practice that the best work we're doing is not while we're sitting at our drawing boards, but it is when we're convincing the clients, all of the other people involved, that they should support, or they should be enthusiastic about our solution. It's a totally new possibility. I mean, we've always been we've always been architects that have gathered information. I mean, the size of the library in our office is quite extensive. I spent most of my money during being an architectural student buying books from all over the world to provide as much information as possible. Today, that information is most often much more accessible thanks to, for example, a website like ArchDaily, which provides very, very detailed, very, very specific information about an enormous range of projects, immediately accessible to any computer almost anywhere on the planet. Of course, the problem of all that information is that it's hard to find what is relevant. It's always hard to find what is relevant. On the other hand, that's one of the good things about being a somewhat experienced architect, that you don't need that much time to decide whether a project is good or not, or whether it catches your interest or not. First of all, I think architecture is something that takes time. I think for myself, the first 3 years I was studying architecture, I didn't have a clue about what I was doing. I did really bad projects, and I had no idea about what architecture was about. We usually recommending interns and so on to spend a lot of time studying architecture. 10 years at least is what you need from sort of studying architecture to you can start practicing, or if you to start sort of working in an office. Do not start to work too early, because there's a lot of shitty architecture offices around in the world that place you in on a lower floor doing ceiling plans forever. So try to get as diversified experience as possible, and the best way of getting that diversified experience is through school. So go to school as long as possible.
And I mean, hard work is really the way, I would say. It's you see it in all the students' project that those who work hard, they get longer.
Spend hours
and
hours.
Also I think it's important to be using the time in the school to get or to find yourself. I mean, what is your own values?
I have never had an employment in an architectural office that have lasted for more than 6 weeks. Which means that I didn't gain any experience from an office. I gained it from doing things on my own. That's also the case with Håkon Vigsnæs. Short periods of internships before he was starting working on his own. Alessandra was our second employee, which means that she basically has only worked at Jarmund and Vigsnæs for her whole life. We started doing very, very small commissions. We started doing garages and small additions, thinking that, well, a small project can give the birth to a slightly larger project, and again, sort of increasing in size. And we spent the first 5 years doing that, doing a lot of architectural competitions, winning after a while, quite a few of them.
And I think also the importance to get into small projects is a smart way if you want to be a builder, or you want to build your architecture. So,
I mean, at least the kind of architecture that we are making is sort of an experiential architecture that is based on detailing, is based on materials, it's based on the act of construction. And we couldn't have done that without sort of learning it the hard way, learning it through making small garages and small additions and so on.
But it's important to understand the limits, because when you understand the limits, you also understand the possibilities. So I mean, if you don't understand the limits, everything could easily get quite wrong, I think, because you're working in a too difficult framework, or you're trying to pursue somewhere places they don't want to go. So
we tend to argue that it's the friction of the architectural process that generates the good architecture.